Songbird and the Sky. Chapter 1. Fairy tales are overrated. You know how fairy tales work, right? The princess meets the prince at a ball, they fall in love, and then something happens that requires the prince to rescue her. He swoops in, saves the day, and they ride off into the sunset on a horse that, for some reason, has no other role in the story. That's how it always goes. No surprises, no twists. I've always hated that story. There are just so many problems with it. Let me break it down for you. Why does the love interest always have to be a prince? Why not a princess rescuing another princess? Or better yet, why not the princess rescuing herself? Why does the princess always get kidnapped by a dragon or some other random creature? Can't she just, I don't know, not get kidnapped? Why does no one ever give credit to the dragon? Maybe the dragon has a backstory. Maybe the dragon is just misunderstood. And why do they always ride off into the sunset? What's wrong with the sunrise? It's a new beginning, after all. But I digress. My point isn't that fairy tales are bad, even though they kind of are. My point is that real life doesn't work like that. You don't meet someone at a ball, fall in love, and ride off into the sunset. Real life is messy, complicated, and full of unexpected moments. I learned that the hard way when I realized how I felt about my best friend, Ray. Chapter 2. The Beginning of Something. Ray and I first met in the most unromantic way possible, during a geography class. Everyone always says that math is the worst subject, but I'm here to tell you that geography is the real villain. It's the class where you're forced to memorize maps and rivers that you'll never need to know about again. I was the quiet kid in the back of the room, doodling in my notebook instead of paying attention. That notebook was my lifeline. I wrote songs, sketched random things, and basically used it as an escape from the boredom of school. One day, during a particularly dull lesson on tectonic plates, I got an idea for a song. A really good one. But there was a problem, I didn't have my notebook with me. The teacher had banned me from bringing it to class after catching me doodling one too many times. I started to panic. The song was forming in my head, and I needed to write it down before I forgot it. That's when the girl sitting behind me, Ray, noticed my fidgeting. Without saying a word, she tore a page from her notebook, crumpled it up, and tossed it under my desk. I caught it, grateful beyond words. As soon as the teacher passed by, I scribbled down the lyrics that had been swirling in my mind. It's a serendipity. That I met you. I won't leave your side. Until the end of time. We'll spin like the lilies. Gaze up at the stars. Under my patchwork sky. After class, Ray introduced herself. I'm Ray. You're the song girl, right? Song girl? I asked, confused. You write songs? Good ones, too, she said with a grin. I blushed. I'm Elise. Can I see the song you wrote in class, Elise? I can help you find a beat for it. I hesitated for a moment, but then handed her the crumpled page. Ray studied the lyrics, nodding her head to an invisible rhythm. She pulled out her phone, opened a music app, and started creating a beat right there in the hallway. Well, Songbird, she said, using the nickname she had just given me, I'll have a tune ready by tonight. Can I get your number? And just like that, we exchanged numbers, and Ray became my best friend. Over the next few years, we worked together on music, creating songs that were uniquely ours. She was the beat maker, and I was the lyricist. We were a perfect team. Chapter 3. 3 years later. Fast forward 3 years, and Ray and I are still inseparable. We've produced 5 songs together, and I've even managed to copyright them. To celebrate, I decided to take Ray to the indoor skydiving center. It's something we've both wanted to try for a while, and I figured it would be the perfect way to mark the occasion. But there's something else I've been planning. Something bigger. You see, over the years, my feelings for Ray have changed. She's not just my best friend anymore. She's the person I think about when I wake up in the morning and the last person I want to talk to before I go to bed. I've been trying to figure out how to tell her, and I think I've finally come up with the perfect plan. We're going to jump out of a plane together. Well, technically, we'll be in a wind tunnel, but you get the idea. And right before we open our parachutes, I'm going to ask her the question that's been on my mind for months. Chapter 4: The Big Day. The day of the skydiving trip arrives, and I'm a bundle of nerves. Ray, on the other hand, is her usual calm and collected self. She's excited about the skydiving, completely unaware of what I have planned. We get suited up, and the instructor gives us a quick rundown of what to expect. My heart is pounding in my chest, but I try to play it cool. Ray gives me a thumbs up, and I force a smile in return. As we step into the wind tunnel, the adrenaline kicks in. The sensation of free-falling is exhilarating, and for a moment, I forget about everything else. Ray and I hold hands as we spin through the air, laughing and shouting over the roar of the wind. And then, just as we're about to finish, I take a deep breath and shout, "Ray, I have something to ask you." She looks at me, her eyes wide with curiosity. What is it? Do you promise to be by my side forever? Or at least until we graduate? Ray laughs, her voice full of joy. Of course, Songbird. Didn't I already promise that? I shake my head, my heart racing. No, Ray. I'm asking if you want to be my girlfriend. For a moment, time seems to stand still. The wind is still rushing around us, but all I can focus on is Ray's face. She looks surprised, but then a slow smile spreads across her lips. Are you serious? She asks, her voice soft. I nod, my heart in my throat. Yeah. I'm serious. Ray grins, her eyes sparkling. Well, in that case, yes. I'd love to be your girlfriend. Chapter 5: A New Chapter. After the skydiving experience, Ray and I sit in the lounge area, sipping on water and catching our breath. The adrenaline is still coursing through my veins, but now it's mixed with a sense of relief and happiness. I can't believe you asked me that while we were skydiving, Ray says with a laugh. You really know how to make a moment, don't you? I shrug, feeling a little shy. I wanted it to be special. Ray smiles, reaching over to take my hand. It really was. As we sit there, holding hands and talking about everything and nothing, I realize that this is my fairy tale. It's not the kind of story where a prince rescues a princess, or where they ride off into the sunset on a horse. It's messy, unpredictable, and full of surprises. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Chapter 6: The Aftermath of the Leap. The days following our skydiving adventure felt like a dream. Everything had changed, but at the same time, nothing had. Ray and I were still best friends, still making music together, still laughing at the same dumb jokes. But now, there was something more, a quiet understanding, a new layer to our relationship that made everything feel a little brighter, a little more meaningful. We didn't make a big deal out of it. There were no grand declarations or dramatic changes. It was just us, the way we'd always been, but with the added comfort of knowing that we were on the same page. That we were more than just friends. One afternoon, a few days after the skydiving trip, we were sitting in Ray's room, working on a new song. The sun was streaming through the window, casting a warm glow over the room. Ray was sitting cross-legged on her bed, her laptop balanced on her knees as she played around with a new beat. I was sitting on the floor, my notebook open in front of me, scribbling down lyrics as they came to me. It was one of those quiet, perfect moments where everything felt right. So, Ray said, breaking the comfortable silence, how does it feel to be dating your best friend? I looked up from my notebook, a smile tugging at my lips. Honestly, it feels pretty great. Ray grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Yeah. No regrets. I shook my head, laughing. None. What about you? Ray pretended to think about it for a moment, tapping her chin dramatically. I don't know. I mean, you're kind of a handful, Songbird. I rolled my eyes, throwing a crumpled piece of paper at her. Oh, please. You love it. Ray caught the paper mid-air, her grin widening. Yeah, I do. We both laughed, the sound filling the room, and for a moment, I felt like the luckiest person in the world. I had Ray, I had our music, and for the first time in a long time, I felt like everything was falling into place. Chapter 7, Navigating the New Normal. As the weeks went by, Ray and I settled into our new normal. We didn't tell anyone about our relationship right away. It wasn't that we were hiding it, exactly, it just didn't feel like something we needed to announce. We were still us, after all. Still best friends, still partners in music. The only difference was that now, we held hands when we walked to class, and sometimes, Ray would lean over and kiss my cheek when she thought no one was looking. It was nice. Simple. Easy. But, of course, nothing stays simple forever. One afternoon, we were sitting in the school cafeteria, eating lunch and talking about our latest song. Ray was excited about a new beat she'd been working on, and I was trying to come up with lyrics that would match the energy of the music. So, I was thinking, Ray said, her eyes lighting up as she spoke, what if we added a bridge right before the final chorus? Something that builds up the tension, you know. I nodded, already scribbling down ideas in my notebook. Yeah, that could work. Maybe something like, "Hey, lovebirds." I froze, my pen hovering over the page. Ray and I both looked up to see our friend, Jess, standing at the edge of the table, a teasing grin on her face. "Lovebirds?" Ray repeated, raising an eyebrow. Jess rolled her eyes, plopping down in the seat across from us. "Oh, come on. You two have been acting all couple-y for weeks now. Did you really think no one would notice?" I felt my face heat up, and I glanced at Ray, unsure of what to say. We hadn't exactly been trying to keep our relationship a secret, but we also hadn't expected anyone to call us out on it so soon. Ray, of course, was completely unfazed. She shrugged, a small smile playing on her lips. Well, I guess the cat's out of the bag. Jess's grin widened. So it's true, then. You two are dating. Ray nodded, her hand casually reaching for mine under the table. Yep. We are. I felt a rush of warmth at the simple, matter-of-fact way Ray said it. There was no hesitation, no awkwardness. Just Ray being Ray, confident, sure of herself, and completely unbothered by what anyone else thought. Jess let out a low whistle, shaking her head in disbelief. Wow. I mean, I always kind of suspected, but it's still wild to hear it out loud. I laughed, the tension in my chest easing. Yeah, it's still kind of wild for us, too. Jess grinned, leaning back in her chair. Well, I'm happy for you guys. You're like the perfect couple. Ray and I exchanged a glance, both of us smiling. Thanks, Jess, Ray said, her voice soft. And just like that, our relationship was out in the open. It wasn't a big deal, and no one made a fuss about it. Our friends were supportive, and life went on as usual. But there was something freeing about not having to hide anymore. About being able to hold Ray's hand in public without worrying about what people would think. Chapter 8, The Music of Us. As the months passed, Ray and I continued to work on our music. We spent hours in her room, experimenting with different sounds and lyrics, trying to create something that felt true to us. It wasn't always easy. There were times when we disagreed, times when we got frustrated with each other, but we always found a way to make it work. One evening, we were sitting in Ray's room, listening to the final mix of our latest song. It was a slow, dreamy track, with Ray's signature beats layered under my soft vocals. We had spent weeks perfecting it, and now, as we listened to the finished product, I couldn't help but feel proud of what we had created. "This is it," Ray said, her voice filled with awe. "This is the one." I nodded, my heart swelling with pride. "Yeah. It is." We sat in silence for a moment, letting the music wash over us. It was a song about love, about finding someone who makes you feel like you're exactly where you're supposed to be. It was a song about us. Ray turned to me, her eyes soft. "You know, Songbird, I think we're pretty good at this." I smiled, leaning my head against her shoulder. "Yeah. We are." And in that moment, I realized that this music, this love, this life we were building together, was my fairy tale. It wasn't the kind of story where a prince rescues a princess, or where they ride off into the sunset on a horse. It was messy, unpredictable, and full of surprises. But it was ours. Chapter 9, The Future Awaits. As senior year approached, Ray and I started talking about the future. We both had big dreams. Ray wanted to go to music school, and I was thinking about studying songwriting and production. But the thought of being apart, even for a little while, was terrifying. One evening, as we sat on the roof of Ray's house, watching the stars, I finally voiced the fear that had been gnawing at me for weeks. "What if we end up going to different schools?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Ray was quiet for a moment, her gaze fixed on the sky. Then she turned to me, her expression serious. "We'll figure it out, Songbird. We always do." I nodded, though the uncertainty still weighed heavily on my heart. "I just don't want to lose you." Ray smiled, reaching for my hand. "You won't? No matter where we end up, we'll always have this. We'll always have us." Her words were simple, but they were exactly what I needed to hear. I squeezed her hand, feeling a sense of peace settle over me. We didn't know what the future held, but we knew one thing for sure: we would face it together. Chapter 10, A New Beginning. Graduation came and went in a blur of caps, gowns, and tearful goodbyes. Ray and I had both been accepted to schools in different cities, but we had made a promise to each other: we would make it work, no matter what. On the night before Ray was set to leave for music school, we sat on the roof of her house one last time, watching the stars and talking about everything and nothing. "I'm going to miss this," I said, my voice soft. Ray smiled, her eyes filled with warmth. "Me too. But we'll make new memories. We'll write new songs. This isn't the end, Songbird. It's just the beginning." I nodded, feeling a mix of sadness and excitement. The future was uncertain, but for the first time, I wasn't afraid. I had Ray, and that was all I needed. As we sat there, hand in hand, watching the stars, I realized that this messy, beautiful, unpredictable life was my fairy tale. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was all that mattered. The end.